Steve from Driving Venture yet again, and we're doing episode 3, but it's not Costco Drives because you join me in Kendal. I've just left the Porsche Centre here in Kendal. I've had to go up here to do some filming of something moorishly green in the PTS Grun colour, but I'll get onto that later on in the video. So in today's video of talking a little bit about cars and watches, importantly watches, I'll be talking to you about this one today. We're going to answer first off a few viewer questions on the watches. Thanks very much for putting the questions to me, hopefully I've got some good answers. Then we're going to get into a little bit about this watch, the GMT Master II. And it has the fabulous and iconic and classic Pepsi Bezel. So we'll talk a little bit about this watch, why it's one of the most classic pieces in my collection, why I think anyone who's a serious watch collector stroke enthusiast should consider having a Pepsi in the mix. A little bit around the watch, and then we'll get on to some reflections around my take and drive, which I hope you enjoyed that video, but yeah. And then what's going up on the channel in the not too distant future. So viewers' questions. Well, first question comes in from S_inman. That's not correctly. And he wants to know why are Rolexes so hard to buy from authorised dealers? Excuse me. Or as they're commonly referred to as ADs. Well, the reason that it's becoming harder to buy Rolex watches, not all Rolex watches, I think the steel line of watches is becoming harder. The sports line of steel watches are almost impossible, and I think that's really what you're getting at. And the reason, in my opinion, that it's become almost impossible is because it's a supply and demand thing. Rolex determined over the last sort of 2-3 years, they had rationalised a lot of their agencies, so they didn't like where a shop was, it was closed. They had to massively increase the stock holding. They went from having to have like 60-70 watches, 100 and 130 watches, otherwise you would lose your agency. So they got quite ruthless with their agency network, and that's one of the reasons. So you've got less shops selling the watches for starters. And then the next thing is that it's all about the supply of the watches, because, you know, there isn't, a Rolex dealer doesn't get 4 stainless steel sub-dates a month. They don't. It'll be black, you know. They might get 1 a month in black. They might get 1 every 6 months in the green and the black, you know, black dial. And so you've got a queue of people who want them, and then you've got hardly any supply. So it puts the dealers, this GT4, sounds brilliant. It's put the dealers in an impossible situation, and of course, like I've said in all the little chats, the dealers are going to go to those customers that have been with them before the brand took off in terms of availability and not being able to get watches. And secondly, you know, they're just not going to sell watches to people who've never really spoke to before or dealt with before. Just there in Porsche Centre Kendal, he said I had a call from a guy in Reading in Berkshire about the Spider. I've never met this person. What do you think the chances are of getting the Spider? 0. So it's all about building a relationship, and I would say if you can afford to buy a Rolex watch, there's those that are readily available. The Datejust, the 41, the Datejust 41mm, really nice on the oyster bracelets in steel, or there's the mixed metal. Then that's what I would do. I would get in at that level and then take it from there. And I think your chances as years roll on are going to be better. But trying to go in for the hard to get watches from the get-go, I think you're going to be dreaming very, very sadly. Okay, I had a question here from Elvis J. Smith, like the handle. Anyway, he said, would I trade my C-Dweller 4000, which was in the last video, for a Deep Sea? Well, I did reply to him. I've actually got a Deep Sea already, and I've got a V for Victor serial, and I had a very early watch in the 11660 series. So in terms of trading, probably not. It's more a question, would I trade my Deep Sea with the black dial for the James Cameron version? Personally, I love the classic black and steel look. That's my look. That's what I like. So I would consider adding a James Cameron with the slightly wider bracelet version, the 12660 maybe at some stage in the future. So I don't think a deep sea, I've already got one of those, is going to go anywhere. Third gear in this GT4. Yeah, you've got that growl at the back. It's back. Okay. And the next question is the watch to buy in 2021. Well, I've really got to take you back to my previous video again, and I think that Rolex will always have a new release. There's always something coming along. It'll be their first time presenting the collection at Geneva, which is different to Basel World. So my view is that the Explorer 2 will be a 50th anniversary edition. That'll be the hot watch to get. And if you can get your hands on anything in the steel sports line, the green bezel black dial sub, even the black dial sub dates, very, very, very sought after. Anything in the pure metal sports lines, particularly yellow gold Daytonas, the green dial. I've got one of those on order for the wife. It's such a knockout watch. But I really like, the guy who asked the question, Martin RS2K, I think it is. It's the white gold Daytona with the blue dial. That's your watch. That is your watch, so that's the watch to get. Okay. So let's get on to the next bit of the video. The GMT Master II, reference 16710, in the classic Pepsi bezel. It's referred to as Pepsi because Pepsi has a blue and a red livery. It's Coke cans, it's Pepsi cans, and this is why the Pepsi, originally conceived for Pan Am pilots in the 50s, is a watch which has got such a strong following now. Now, this is the only watch I've ever purchased second hand. I've never ever purchased any other watches other than this one. This was second hand. The reason it had to be second hand was because, as I said in my previous video, I wasn't in a position to get a new one. You know, my financial position wasn't such that I could just get a GMT, get a Submariner, get this, get that. As I was building the collection since 1995, as this watch was discontinued, I wasn't in a position to have one. So as my circumstances improved, the business grew, a Pepsi GMT was a watch I really, really wanted. So I saw this one for sale. It was a private arrangement, a private deal between myself and the seller. What makes this watch a little bit unique, it's not overly unique, but it's a little bit of a quaint thing about it, is that it has a stick dial. So the GMT Master II, the numerals don't have it's a non-serif, they don't have the tops on, they're not the Roman numeral with the top and the bottom on them, you know, it's just two white stick, and that's called the stick dial. Now, that's made this watch more collectible than, say, one that's not. It's a Z serial, so it's come with a plastic guarantee card, which again is quite unique. But it was really the condition of the watch. It was in knockout condition. It had a bracelet that had hardly been worn. The previous owner had worn it on a different bracelet, so the oyster bracelet was crisp, it was tight, so it was just ready to go. So I paid, wait for it now, I paid £3,250 for this watch. And today, well, I think you've got to be talking, well, again, it's not a watch I would sell, but £15,000. So, you know, it's been a good investment. But that's about that. Let's get forth. So the GMT Master, the reason they are so collectible, a bit like the Submariner really, is because it is referred to a little bit as a tool watch, or it's a professional watch. It's made for a specific purpose, and the purpose of the GMT, taken obviously after Greenwich Mean Time, is that it's a watch which can help you track more than one time zone. So we'll get onto that when I pull up in a minute, because I want to get it off my wrist again and show you what's what, and then we'll carry on with the video. So before I get to my place I'm going to stop, I'll talk to you a little bit about the takeout. So stay tuned, because there's more detail on this watch coming in this video. The Taycan, yeah, hope you enjoyed that video as much as I enjoyed driving that car. A real step into the future for Porsche, and okay, it's not the most practical car in the world, it's quite expensive, but it's green, it's clean, as I had to go clean shaven when I test drove it. So yeah, nippy, agile, quick, disguised its weight so well. You know, and you feel that you're doing your part for the environment, I guess, because obviously zero emissions and all the tax breaks. But one thing that really stands out above all else is the torque on the engine. It just punches and goes at any speed, and it was different to drive a car without PDK, without a manual gearbox, a car that just basically had a speeder that went up and up and up, and whatever speed you were at, the torque just came in and you were off. That's sensational. Third gear, we're going up to 2 lanes now. This GT4, there is a full video coming on this car, we'll get to that in a minute, but it's nice to be back in a car that's got a manual box, a flat 6 engine, and a howling exhaust in the back. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. So yeah, Taycan is the future. We are obviously going to have to all go electric eventually. There'll be those that keep the petrol cars obviously in collections and this, that and the other. Petrol's not going to go. It's a long time. But I think that the petrol story it's got a long time to go, but the future is electric. So I'm just going to turn around here so I can do this video on the GMT stationary. There we go. Okay, so the Taycan, yes, absolutely tremendous car. I think Porsche have got it perfectly right, the timing. Weaned the masses onto electric following with Telsa and all of that, getting him on it, and then bang, 2019 Goodwood coming to market with that Taycan. It's just a graceful looking car, very big, wide, very long, supercar. Anyway, let's get the handbrake on and let's come back to the GMT Master II. Now, having a few watches in the collection, I got this one out of the bank, saved the deposit box, because I knew I was obviously going to do a video on this watch. The Pepsi Bezel. On the dial, you'll notice it's got a long hour hand with a triangle on the end of it, and that is your second time zone tracker. And the way it works is that hour hand interacts with the bezel. So this bezel actually moves. You can actually move the bezel into different time zones there. And what you do is, if you go into New York, is that you get on your aeroplane. Everyone's flying at the moment, but anyway, you get onto the aeroplane, they're 5 hours behind, and you would unscrew the watch with the crown, and then you would go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And so now in New York, it's now coming up to 7 in the morning there. Okay. Now, if it's British summertime, what you would do, because the second hour hand's there, it's still there, is that you would move this forward an hour, and then it would be giving you the time if it's British summertime in the UK, or if you were on Greenwich Mean Time as we are now, you've still got your 10, the hour hand there, the second hour hand's down at 12, and that's the 12 on the bezel, at the bottom here, 12 o'clock, the 6 o'clock marking, it's a 12 o'clock number, so that's it. So you've got 12 o'clock, and then you've got 7 AM on your wrist as you're getting on your aeroplane, you're taking off to New York. But if you had a call with someone in Hong Kong, then what you do then is, you move on the bezel on the watch, 7 hours, because they're, sorry, 8 hours, because they're 8 hours ahead of us, I think it is, in the GMT, when we're running on GMT, not British time zone. So you've actually got 3 time zones available on this watch, which is quite a unique thing. So it is a watch I've used a great deal when I've travelled. I've gone to America, I've gone to Asia, I've gone to Europe. Whenever I go into another time zone, I always take one of my watches that allows me to wear another time zone on my wrist. And the Pan Am airline pilots that this watch was designed for in the 50s, I think it's 1954, they really liked it, because again, psychologically, you're looking at the watch and in your brain it's telling, oh, it's now 7 o'clock in the morning, it's not 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and that was one of the reasons why it was designed. The early ones didn't allow the hour hand to move, that was fixed. They were GMT Masters, and the GMT2s came along with an independent hour hand, so you could change that. With the GMT Masters, the early ones, this hour hand didn't move, so you would just use the bezel to actually change your time zone. But the GMT2 is more functional. They've become very, very popular again because fewer and fewer for sale. These have been discontinued since about 2007 now, something like that. So again, when they come up for sale, the mint ones go really, really quick. The watch to get where this one's concerned, in the 16710 serial, 16710 model reference, the one to get is with the 3186 movement. That's the watch which was a final cheerio to the 16710. It had the 3186 movement, which then appeared in the ceramic bezel GMTs, and they started that with the yellow gold one, and then they went to mixed metal and the steel one. So those are particularly sought after. Mint ones of those would go for probably 20,000, nearer £20,000 now, certainly late teens, 20,000. If you get an unworn one, well, it's even more than that. So, but again, I like to have watches which I can wear. I don't have any watches in my collection which, you know, just stay in the safety deposit box at the bank, and then I never ever, you know, wear them. And I don't do that. I believe in wearing my watches, a bit like my cars, to be fair. So that's a GMT Master. Wears lovely and slim on the wrist. It's got a smaller crown than the Submariner. This has only got, I believe it's a 330 feet, 100 metre water resistance, waterproof. But I've worn this in saunas, I've worn it in swimming pools. It's just a classic watch, and it's a great watch to see at airports when people were travelling, because that's why the watch was designed. And I have just absolutely loved this watch, as long as I've owned it. So hopefully that's a little bit about the GMT Master. Maybe a little bit of a dive into the watch, but if I can encourage you to, again, you know, spec up your knowledge on Rolex, again, I'll direct you to Hodinkee. They have a series on watches, and one of the series they have an episode about the GMT, understanding it, because there's been so many variations since the 50s. John Boys and Eric Wind of Wind Vintage, they go through about a 10-minute video of all the GMTs, and I'll put a link in the video about that video below, so you can check it out, because it'll blow your mind. I mean, there's just whole businesses created around watches, just absolutely fascinating. And you've seen TV, movie celebs wearing, and that's again another reason why Rolex are so popular, because they're worn by the celebs and the sports people, and all the rest of it. So there we go. So I'm going to head back to Porsche Centre Kendal. I am driving a paint to sample 981 GT4 with lovely yellow stitch interior. It's got ceramic brakes. I'm not going to give too much more away about this car, because this is actually the car I'm reviewing next. So this will be on the YouTube channel on Sunday, so stay tuned. I'm sure you'll enjoy watching that video. As much as I'll enjoy driving this car. Oh yes. So what's coming up on the channel? Well, I've mentioned the Crayon Turbo S. We're hoping to have that before too long. The car that's coming next is this car, a paint to sample grun or green, Moorish green and yellow 981 GT4. And the reason I wanted to put this car on the channel was purely and simply because I've just driven the GTS 4 litre, and I was in the centre today. There was a guy specking one, so well done. But the price point, these cars are going for late 60s, early 70s, and that's interesting because the 718 4 litre GTS is at that price point. So should you go for one of these, or go for a new GTS, so we'll maybe cover that off in the video. It'll be interesting. That's why I wanted to drive this car and get this reviewed on another channel for you guys. Then next time we've got something executive coming again. Yes, we're going into the Panamera for the first time on the channel. We will have a Panamera, the new Panamera, on the channel after this. So I'm looking forward to driving that car, checking it out. But this car is sensational. It drives so well. It's a bit busier than the 718, but we'll get to that. All the lowdown and all the crystal clear detail on that car is coming very, very soon. Well, hopefully that's been a bit of a talk through around the GMT Master. Upskill your knowledge, watch that Hodinkee video. Next week there'll be another video along about Rolex, my thoughts on cars, etc, etc. So it's looking forward to putting it together for you. I have just done a video with the owner of the 997 GTS, and we're probably going to put that out sometime in the next couple of weeks. We'll get that polished off and get that out for you guys to watch. It's an interesting story. It's how the car came into his possession, you know, his love of cars. He's got some exceptionally nice cars. You know, he's got an exceptionally nice GT2 RS, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. So yeah, he's in the car game, so we'll give you some lowdown on the car game, what's happening. So hopefully you'll stay tuned for that one. But it just leaves me to say thanks very much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and comment away. Put your questions to me about the watches, about, you know, your questions around Rolex particularly, and I'll do my very, very best to answer them. I'll have some reflections on that Panamera. I'll have some reflections, a bit more detail on this car next time too. So thanks very much for watching today's video. Don't forget to subscribe, get the notification button on, and as always, I will see you next time.